Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
I'd want him as Shang Tsung for Mortal Kombat. That'd be dope.
That wouldn't be bad.
I wouldn't be mad with that.
Everyone stopped and made a face.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On the Podcast you didn't need but deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. Yes, you're a sweet booty, you cutie out there. We love your faces, miss your ears.
Wow.
Hi.
Let us introduce the topic. It's very common nowadays to have to choose between which streaming platform to watch your favorite binge-worthy shows. However, today, we make an even harder choice. Today, we chose two shows, not one, not three, not five, but two shows that we are going to discuss and why we love them so much and why we chose them to individually represent who we are.
I'd like to go on the record and say that Peaky Blinders would be one of my choices. However, if you want to check out our episode on it, scroll back down and you'll hear all our thoughts.
Scroll back up.
Yeah.
In today's topic, the marquee on the message on the marquee, TV shows or us.
TV shows or us?
Yeah, you did say or us.
Or us. Or us. Which one do you want? Do you want TV shows or do you want us? One or the other. They're like, oh, all the TV shows cancel. I was like, oh, okay. Well, TV shows are us.
We're almost 3 years in and we still haven't done this episode, which is, we've done two
Kind of insane, actually.
two video game ones, but not TV shows are us.
Well,
I blame Caitlin.
I feel like we've covered a lot of TV shows, we've covered a lot of movies, and video games feels a little more niche, I suppose. I don't know. We're kind of always talking about the TV and the movies, so I think it's a little more love.
I think video games change more radically than TV and film has. But let's talk about this in the actual episode. Let's introduce our host. My name is Tom.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Corey.
And I am Josh. And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get early access to our episodes. You get bonus episodes that are heard by nobody but you.
You
get
For your ears only.
You get access to private channels in the Discord server. You get a Nerd On nudge to the Nerd On update questions section. But yeah, lots to check out. We always have, usually when we make announcements, we make it to the Nerd On Nation first. But yeah.
And foremost.
That is that. If you want to check that out, nerdon.io/Patreon. Do check out that Discord, nerdon.io/Discord. And our partners, Apogee and Odyssey. Apogee have these wonderful USB microphones, the Hype Mic. Can't recommend them enough. Can't recommend the company, period, enough. They are a wonderful company to work with. They make quality products that I've been using for years, and I dig them hardcore. And then we have Odyssey headphones. You should really check out those. They're wonderful. They're beautiful. They're comfortable. Check them out.
They sound like butter in your ears.
No, if your ears were mouths, they taste like butter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's much more formal and makes more sense.
I feel like
than
that's
what I
gotta
said,
be.
but also still doesn't make sense. But
I declare Apogee. You can use that for free.
Yeah.
Odyssey?
Apogee and Odyssey.
Odyssey. Excuse me. Let's go back. Let's cut that out real quick. I had coffee today.
Or needs more.
Well, that has been the housekeeping. On with this fantastic
Before we get too far in, I do want
to
to say up front, Ali is taking a sabbatical for the next month. So all those DJ Gripe fans, we apologize from the bottom of our hearts. But
you'll have to deal with the qualms instead.
Yeah, he'll return next month.
If you have a qualm and or a gripe, you can message us.
If you email us,
tall, dark, not ugly on any social media, hit him up.
In all
Let
of
him know how you feel.
These subject lines, just put gripes. So
no,
Yes.
great.
God no.
On with the show.
To the wrong
hashtag
deity.
gripes.
Hashtag release the qualm cut. Anyways, so we're gonna get on with the show. This is an RS, so we're not gonna have really any guess that grumps. We're not gonna have any ratings. We are gonna have a bunch of full of favorite parts and favorite characters.
We're gonna have a bunch
discussion.
of full.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot more of us going around the digital room, and going to talk about like a little bit of what the shows we kind of like embody who we are in a way and how they've impacted us. So I've been talking
I didn't know
too
we were
much.
going to go that deep.
Well, we only go deep.
how are
I
we
only go
not?
5 fingers deep, Josh.
Wow.
Because you want to
I
make
thought
sure
we were just going to talk
We're
about
not
shows we
gonna go-
like.
you want to make sure they feel it. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Just
Doing
like
it
Tom's
raw.
always elbow deep in anything he does.
Just like an
so
echidna penis.
Expect that always.
4-pronged. Anyways.
All right.
So who wants to go first? Who wants to talk?
Tom, why don't you open us up since you have a very clear picture of how things are?
Shit. Okay, baby. So the first show I am going to talk about, and this is it's not on our notes that we usually have for the show because Corey made a very good observation. Said, "Well, I'm not going to do an episode about talk about Peaky Blinders, even though that's one of his favorite shows because we already did an episode on it, and we already did an episode on the HBO Watchmen series." So my first show that I'm going to talk about is going to be Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
that
you
is-
nerd.
That is so TV show, right? To me, that was like when I started really like I was it was Toonami block, so I was like 9 or 10 to 12 years old. But that's when I really started getting to like I have to see my daily episode. I have to get to that routine point. I grew up watching like Family Matters and Smart Guy and Sister and Fresh Prince.
Oh,
so I had that
Smart
sense
Guy.
of like watching something on a regular basis. But this is the first one where I was like, if I don't watch this episode, I'm going to be out of the funk. I'm not going to know what's happening. Even though
Everyone's going to talk about it tomorrow, and I'm going to hear all the spoilers of all the stuff I missed.
I'm
and
gonna
then
be a
I found out that was
loser.
a complete lie because the way that Dragon Ball Z works is that people just yell at each other for the entire quarantine. I mean, for the entire episode, and then this takes forever. So no,
Freudian there.
yeah, I know. I mean, that is one of my favorite memes right now, where it's like, how long will the shutdown take? And then it sees the battle between Goku and Frieza, and I'm like, damn, that's how long. So, but no, this was the very first time that I felt like I was watching an anime because anime is a medium, not a genre. Just like we talked with Miles from Crunchyroll. There are a lot of devices that are used in anime, specifically like internal monologues, announcing attacks, the type of delivery, which all comes from like old school kabuki theater. And so like that's why it's so different from any other type of animation style or anything like that. It's because it's its own medium because it grew up from a different place. But no, Dragon Ball Z is I think I've said it once, I've said it again, and I'll say it till the cows come home. It was the perfect embodiment for a young boy growing up to see that progress through adversity. That there was never going to be a challenge that if you just worked really, really hard that you can get through. So Dragon Ball Z is my first pick specifically because of that. And
Yeah.
I mean, between Akira Toriyama's like art design and then also like how it is a riff of Journey to the West storyline, but then like it included like time capsule or time machines and capsule corporation. So there's like futuristic technology, yet there are these like old school cars, and then there's dinosaurs and monsters around. But then yet you're fighting alien creatures and there's androids, but then also there are dragons, and it's like
a mixed genre, a melting pot of genres almost.
yeah, I think to me, like, a lot of people tend to go ham on one end of the spectrum instead of kind of like blending them in together in a way, which I think is hard. Which is actually kind of why I really liked the Krypton in Man of Steel, because they had like these flying dragon thingies, but then everything was like really technologically like advanced. So like there's a lot of like influences that brought from there on further. And I recently started playing Dragon Quest, like the series for the first time. So I beat the
Yeah.
first, second, and third games on the Switch because I was like, I really like Akira Toriyama's art style, so let me play this. And then also I need to know who the hell Hero is on Smash Bros. But anyways, like, also I think, like, even though it's very flawed, it's a very flawed show. There are characters like Vegeta who have like some of the greatest redemption arcs, which is only
Yeah.
made possible because of Piccolo's great redemption arc. And then when you have like a Piccolo, then you do a Vegeta who are then later on revoiced by the same person.
Mhm.
Then they just make Vegeta the guy, and then everyone loves that. Where like, but also Dragon Ball Z taught me what it meant to have a flat character arc and to have like a Goku character who like never really has to go positively up or down or negatively down. He just stays flat and he's always a good guy and he just knows what's best. He doesn't know what's best. He's actually a fucking buffoon. But like people
he tries
change
to do what's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Dragon Ball, the predecessor to Dragon Ball Z, all the characters that he meets in every arc change positively because of him, and they get stronger because of him. But around the end of Dragon Ball Z, the series, he brings up this question of like, which to me, why like, I give a lot of modern things a lot of shit like Avatar, the MCU, and all these other things because I've seen it before. And so when when Vision says our existence invites challenge, I'm like, that Goku said that. Goku said that 20 years ago. This isn't new. Like,
Goku
and so,
did it first. Like the Simpsons did it first, but no,
Goku said that for sure first before Simpsons. And so like, yeah, I know. It's compared to South Park. But no, it's those kind of things where it's like anime as well as more particularly and specifically Dragon Ball Z, time travel, places that are in pocket dimensions, elder beings and other planets. Like it had so much going for it that I love it. But I feel like I want to give the mic to somebody else because I'm just going to go on and on.
I'm also someone, I came a little later to the show through some friends of mine who used to watch it daily. And when I was visiting them one time, they were like, oh, you got to check this show out. I think I was like 11-ish, 12 maybe. And I remember just being like, I've never seen anything like this. Is amazing. I mean, because all I had really watched before that, I mean, was stuff like, on TV was like Power Rangers or, Beast Wars and stuff like that. So this was a completely different feel and vibe. And it had this kind of epicness or scale to it that I hadn't seen in a TV show before. And I think it's a fantastic show. I've since watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and I still have the soft spot for Z over Dragon Ball because of that.
Yeah, Akira Toriyama saw that the fighting genre, not particularly just shonen, but just like boxing stuff and these tournament arc stuff, where like actual martial artists and stuff like that. I forget what it's called, but just that subsect in the genre of just shonen, but then now martial arts fighting was like super popular, growing with boys at that time. That he was like, all right, I'm going to turn Dragon Ball Z into that instead of more of this adventure show. Mm-hmm. Because at first it's very adventurous, very go to the place, get the thing, meet the people over there, go to this tribe, Red Ribbon Army, yada yada. But yeah, like to your point, like I grew up on Disney, and I like as a child, me and my sister, that was what our imaginations were kind of capped out as. And then when I saw Dragon Ball Z, it was like, oh, there's much more that's going on. It's not just the end. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's always going to be something more. Yeah. And then also like, oh, like I get to see the actual world at stake. Like there's so many shots where you just see the planet as the establishing shot. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, it's not just a castle, it's the planet.
I don't have I mean, we did that anime day where we watched a whole bunch of anime, and that literally was my first experience of Dragon Ball, period. Like any sort of Dragon Ball related thing, except for like outside looking in kind of thing. I mean, it piqued my interest, and I really do want to. It's such when I look at Dragon Ball as a whole, I'm like, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Is Dragon Ball Z as a continuation, or is it brand new? Like what is? Can you explain like
Dragon Ball? Okay, so Dragon Ball
in a way, in a nutshell.
So Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama created Dragon Ball, and again, it's a riff off Journey to the West. So the Monkey King, a priest, a pig dude, and a priestess or something like that. A monk and a priestess go to the West to go. That's just the journey. That's just the story. And then Dragon Ball Z was kind of the same way, where it's like we're looking for these Dragon Balls, and so Bulma starts the adventure. She's the daughter of a genius dude, but she's also a genius in her own right, and she's looking for these Dragon Balls because they grant wishes. Find 7 Dragon Balls, and they're scattered all around the planet. And then so she runs across Goku, who has the 4-star Dragon Ball, and he's this kid who's all by himself in the woods who has a tail, and it's like, why is that? So you immediately know that the show is like fantastical in some way. And the show, continues where you meet Yamcha, then you meet Oolong, then you meet Por, you meet all these characters. Like one's a pig person, one's like a little furry cat rabbit thingy. And throughout the way, like Goku like gets stronger, shows how strong he is. He's not like normal people. And then he gets really obsessed with learning how to fight. And so he ends up training with Master Roshi. He has like this dragon staff thing. And so all these elements come to a head where around the end of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, most of the arcs are tournament arcs. And tournament arcs is very specific with an anime where every episode is a fight with someone else. And half the episode is dedicated to let you understand where the opponent is coming from so that you feel that there are emotional stakes at it. And so that became so popular. We had seen Goku go from like maybe 8 years old all the way up to like 18 years old in this time frame. Like years had passed. He had met so many people from different places. He had saved people from like fascism as well as armed military takeovers. And they'd used the Dragon Balls. They had seen him like transform to a giant ape monster, and they no one knew what the heck that was. He learned power moves and stuff. Anyways, all this stuff happened. And then the show ended. It ended with Piccolo being killed and then him marrying Chi-Chi. You're like, cool, it's over. And then Akira Toriyama was like, I think a lot of people like this stuff. We're going to bring it back.
Not.
And we're going to just go ham. We're going to go higher in intensity. And so they had Goku and Chi-Chi have a son, Gohan. And they were like, we're gonna talk about why Goku's the way he is. And the first arc in Dragon Ball Z is the Saiyan arc. And then they introduce Goku's brother. And you find out, and this is the American
very
dub
quickly
that I got, is that Goku was sent to the planet Earth as a Saiyan baby because the Saiyan race that he is,
I heard
are known.
baby.
Yeah, they are known amongst the universe as the demolition race. They're the ones that go to planets, kill everyone there, and then sell the planet to the highest bidder. And so as a baby, Goku was sent to Earth to kill everyone, but he got dropped on his head. And then his adoptive Jonathan Kent grandpa raised him as a good person. And so, and it's kind of implied that he killed his grandpa when he turned into a great ape. So what they did for the American localization was they did a lot of Supermaning to him. And so Goku, to me, I was like, he was that like beacon of hope. But then if you look at the real source material, he's much more just like a buffoon who likes to fight, much like the Monkey King.
Likes to fight, likes to eat.
Likes to fight, likes to eat. Is like really like low class in terms of how he responds to royalty. Because it's like very natural. It's very, he's just like a normal dude. He doesn't see rank. He doesn't see like, oh, this person's above me or this person's below me. He just sees, I want to get stronger and I just want to fight anybody. Like whoever wants to fight, like I'm cool with it. Like, but not kill. He's like, I just want to fight. So Dragon Ball Z is a lot to it, but it's a very enjoyable thing. I would say with all anime that are long form, just like One Piece or Bleach or Naruto, it's much easier to get into when you're a kid because it's like learning a new language. It's just like, all right, easy. That's just the way it is. Like the rules aren't built in your brain already of what shows should be like. So you just go with.
For me, that was Kenshin.
Kenshin's like so short comparatively, though.
I know, but that's the first one that got me into like watching anime daily, being like, I gotta get to my next one.
And that's like, I would almost call it like almost like an advanced class because it teeters onto the more teenager / adult themes.
Yeah.
Then Dragon Ball Z is just like a power fantasy where like people just get strong and yell at each other.
Oh, that's great. I had to watch it with the volume on like 1 because we weren't allowed to watch that. So my sister and I would like crowd the couch and like turn on the TV. And as soon as we heard like footsteps in the other room, you had to like change the channel and then turn the volume up to like 3. And you're like,
nothing.
Just watching PBS, guys.
Yeah. Always had
public
last or
broadcast,
return. Yeah. I will say also, the American dub treated me so well because the opening Rock the Dragon theme song is so metal and so gangster when you were a kid. When you were a kid, this was like the shit. It was on par with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme. Just
the
like
theme? Yeah.
You didn't have guitar thing, like heavy guitar, electric guitar shit in any of your kids' stuff. Like Batman the Animated Series didn't have that. Beast Wars just said Beast War, all the time. So you never got like, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? And it's just
those about to rock.
Yeah, it just had so much kinetic
It was
energy
like that Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles were like the coolest theme songs on the planet.
And I think the internet really did well to keep Dragon Ball Z a staying power because when YouTube started becoming a thing, there was a thing called AMVs, anime music videos. And by golly, I'll tell you, there were
Tom
more.
introduced me to these at the warehouse.
There were more Dragon Ball Z animated music videos than Gangnam Style had views. I'm telling you, like, there's so many. And
there's so many that he was trying to find a specific one, and we watched 3 other ones before we got to the one he was looking for.
And they're so good. Like
they were all good, but he was like, "This isn't it, but this is good too."
There's one that's Linkin Park's Paper Cut, and it's to future Trunks' origin, and he has like the most tragic origin, and it's like it's done so well. Anyways,
and Josh is like, Trunks? It's like let's just leave that one.
And also, so this is a fun thing too.
The androids.
All the characters are named after funny things. So
Josh's face.
Goku's real name is Kakarot. So carrot. And Vegeta's name is vegetable. And then Goku's brother, or Kakarot's brother, his name's Raditz. Like radish. And then there's Nappa.
Gohan is rice.
Yeah. And then the Frieza. So there's one named Frieza. His brother's name's Cooler. And his dad's name's King Cold. And so there's all these kind of things that are like, wow, they're just very simply named. And it, to me, also reinforced
like
Piccolo. Yeah. There are characters who, like, in other anime who are like, I'm named Sky. I'm like, you're named Sky? It's like, my name is Blue. I'm like, you're just Blue.
Blue?
Azor. And I was like, oh my God, okay. But so like those simplicity things, but like the cool thing that like Dragon Ball Z at least made me think about names in a different way, where like one of my favorite things is Inception. The wife's name is Mal. And in the Latin term, Mal is bad. And so like it's that kind of like when she's there, something bad's gonna happen, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, it's that extra level of subtext that you can just add into your story levels of like, okay, cool. If the character's name's a vegetable, they're probably a Saiyan. Yeah. If the character's anything near cold shit, it's probably the Frieza race. And so I was like, you know, you could do those kind of things and make those connections and flesh out your world. Yeah.
Distinguishing.
Yeah.
I heard it.
So, you know, Erwin,
like almost like Benedict Cumberbatch. Penguin.
Penguins.
Penguins.
Who's next?
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Do it.
I will start with an older show first. Yeah, Tom's already got it. Scrubs.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think Scrubs is especially season one, but the whole series up until end at season 8. There is a season 9, but it was a whole thing where they wanted to make a spin-off show, and then the studio was like, no, you better make it still Scrubs. So they had to change the whole outline of like, anyway. The 9th season was supposed to be a spinoff that took place at a college for med students. And I think that's a great idea. However, what the studio said was, why don't you make it take place at the Scrubs hospital and all the characters from Scrubs are also there, except that all those actors' contracts ran up and they didn't re-sign. So they're there for like 2 episodes. It fell apart. Anyway, 8 great seasons.
This is not why you wanted to talk about this.
It's a pet peeve I have. It's one of the reasons if you'll hear me on here talk about how I don't like studios meddling with visions of artists. So with that though, the first season especially is this masterclass in balancing extremes, and I mean that in the best way possible. It is first and foremost a comedy, and an absurdist comedy at that. Like there is a lot of cutaway gags and a lot of metaphorical gags too. Like when one of the characters gets bad news, literally a delivery guy comes in, he goes, "John Dorian, sign here," and he signs it, and then a ton of bricks falls on him. And that's how they metaphorically tell you that this news has hit him hard.
I was going to say,
right?
like, the pilot is probably one of the strongest TV pilots I've seen because it establishes exactly what the world you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Which sometimes they do that at the very end, but at the show's like very good at like just bringing you in.
Yeah, and it's one of the few instances where narration doesn't totally bother me.
No.
As well. They did it really well. And they're able to make fun of themselves for it in there as well. And I just think that the highs of the absurdity and then the there's just so many gut punches in this show of really, really good writing, like very thought out, planned writing. And a lot of medical professionals have said this is the show that shows the truest behind the scenes of what it's like to be a doctor.
Have you
seen? Because they made that really. Bill Lawrence, who's the creator of the show, it was very important to him to pay respect to the people that they were creating a show about. So he based his two main characters off real doctors.
Oh. Have you seen that YouTube series?
What?
Or I forget the
There's so many of them.
I know there's a lot of the doctor guy, but the one I look at, he's like just that's that stupidly good looking doctor dude who watches it, and he always talks about Scrubs, and he's just like, no, this is what it's kind of like. Obviously, they're coping with the harshness of the reality in comedy,
right?
But this is it. Every episode when you have to, you as a healthcare professional, you want to be there for your patients. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to tell them like these are their last moments and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they juggle this really great line of like they deal with not only relationship between people who work at a hospital, but like how do doctors deal with the guilt of those kind of things, or how do doctors try to blur the lines to get people the help they need, and they go into that as well of like keeping someone on insurance even though it's the dad who needs the medication and prescribing her the medication so that the dad who's not qualified gets it. And it's just a really wonderfully acted show as well. I think everyone, especially I want to give a shout out to John C. McGinley, who plays Dr. Cox. I think he's one of the strongest characters on that show, as well as, the janitor's probably the most interesting character of all of them. Dr. Yanni Tor. But yeah, I think what they captured with that show is kind of like a little bit of lightning in a bottle, and it does get more absurd as the season goes on, and that's why I specifically say season 1 is probably some of the greatest TV I've ever watched. But I do love all of it.
Do you listen to their show?
I do. Yeah, they actually.
So the show's called Fake Doctors, Real Friends.
Yeah, and they actually just did a wonderful episode. So with everything that's going on with social media and how just society as a whole is trying to better themselves and move forward. They actually pulled, Bill Lawrence, the creator of the show, decided to pull 3 episodes in which there was blackface in it, where JD was imagining himself as Turk or something like that. And they had a really wonderful episode where they had Bill Lawrence on the podcast to talk about that. And it's a really, really great conversation. I'd highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in that kind of thing, of his decision not only to pull the episodes and have them re-edited and put back up, missing those scenes, but also just, not that this is an excuse, but just telling like his story of where they were at the time, writing those kind of jokes and all that kind of stuff. My cat's yelling at me right now. But it's I would highly recommend anyone listen to that episode, because it's a really great podcast, but that one especially has some real nuggets in it. But yeah, it's a great show. Tom, there was a reason Tom was doing this scrubbing motion before I even talked. I talk about it all the time. I really do.
Honestly, when I haven't even seen a whole lot of Scrubs, but when I think of that show, I think of like Corey's personality.
I'm okay with that.
No, I mean,
I really.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God. Well, what I was gonna say was the cool thing about the show is that with everything going on, it's not gonna get canceled. Or
yeah.
So I mean,
that's fair.
There's so many medical shows right now, and that's something where in like House, Grey's Anatomy, stuff like that, where drama will happen because of the situation of it is, or where it is, healthcare professionals and stuff like that. So like, it's not really hard to find the story within it. So they don't have to over dramatize things. They can just kind of be, they can have fun with the show. And then they're like, let's throw in a little bit of what the realistic.
And I believe a lot of the cases on the show throughout the entire series are taken from interviews with doctors.
And they're not lupus.
They're not lupus. But a lot of them are based, obviously they write around it's based on a true story essentially of all these cases, and they write around it to fit the message of the show, but they're all based in real, like a lot of those really hard moments are ones that they wanted to pay respect to doctors who had told those stories before. So I think it's a really cool Cool show. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Hulu right now. I would highly recommend it. And listen to that episode of the podcast. It's very good.
Josh, Kaylin?
Josh.
Okay. It was this episode. Our Us episodes are kind of like they're very loose, but this one was very hard because I realized that I've seen a lot of movies and I've watched a lot of TV, and there are a lot of TV shows that I'm like, ooh that. So I had to narrow my TV shows down to like right off the get-go of ones that I know, like I've watched multiple times, all the way through multiple times. And the first one that I'll talk about is Battlestar Galactica.
Before you get into that,
Beats.
sweet baby Josh,
Battlestar Galactica.
I'm going to ask that in our Nerd On Bingo that we put in, anytime Josh says this was hard. Because I feel like
That's
for
true.
someone
it's
like
a pretty
you,
common theme, I
who-
feel.
but the
We
thing
could
is, like,
also
it's
do that for you, Tom, but for a whole different reason.
oh yeah. But when
yeah,
Josh,
all
but
right.
like Josh, you like a lot of things. So I know that like picking something finite for you and making a statement that this one bubbles above the rest is like probably your biggest existential crisis you go throughout the week.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well, I
proud
mean,
of
it's
you.
like
and
I'm already
of my-
holding out for TV shows
one of
are us part
one
2.
of my favorite things in our episodes is when we have to pick like 2 characters and Josh just like lists all of
Breaks
these like,
the
well, I like
rules.
this guy and I did like this guy, but my 2 are but not just because you're like I can see you having to like compartmentalize
could you imagine
and
if the-
reason with yourself.
Could you
You
imagine
have
the
to be like,
Academy
"It's
Awards were
okay.
like that? You know,
It's
hey,
okay.
La La Land was good.
They did do a really good job, but
Josh,
you know, I
Josh,
just
it's okay.
and then
It's
And
okay.
Yeah, it's
Spotlight
like
was really
it's like
good.
you're having to like talk yourself down. You're like, but I love all these guys, and you're like, but it's fine, but I love them. But no, it's okay
You're
because
not
I'll pick
saying
these
that you
2.
hate them, Josh. It's going to be okay. It's okay.
I one day
So-
that would be my
you're
dream for you
not
to.
invalidating any other
Yeah.
option that's
I-
on the board. It's
I-
just those are just the ones that for you personally are your
pick.
favorites. It's okay.
I want him to announce the best actress at Academy Awards. Be like, but I really like Emma Stone.
Oh, but all
and
of
I
the
think she did
everybody
really well.
did a
But
really
it goes
great
to Meryl
job.
Streep, no matter what. It goes to Meryl Streep.
But
So
you
So
guys did
Battlestar.
Battlestar Galactica is the first show that I can think of that I was in it. Like
The remake, right?
You were in it.
I was in Battlestar Galactica. People don't really know
Wow.
that. The 2004
I'm
He's a
Battlestar.
Cylon.
No,
I
no,
was
the,
Galactica.
the rebootish thing that was made between 2004 and 2009.
The almost version.
the Edward James Almost version. It just for me, if I were to admit it, it's not like life changing or anything like that. It's not like the best show ever made. It was just something that I loved every minute of it.
Some people would argue that it is the best show ever.
Oh no, I know, but there were some scenes that it was like a soap opera in space. Like
Mhm.
Which
there were
is
some things
great.
that were just so dramatic.
That's
It
Star
is
Wars.
a space opera, but there were
Yeah.
some
Better.
scenes that were just like, it's so dramatic, but I loved it. I just
that's
that
the one with
Portlandia
Katie.
joke where they say just one more episode.
Oh yeah,
It was totally like that. I remember one of my
I
first
watched that
roommates.
last night. That episode of Portlandia where they quit their jobs to watch the show.
Yeah.
And then they find a writer to write a new episode and invite the entire cast over to read it, but it's
Yeah.
not the same writer as the show.
One of my
Oh.
first
Fantastic.
roommates, we did that. We were just like, oh, just one more episode. And then it's 3 a.m. and we're like, well,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, there's a
I-
reason why it's going to be rumored to have another remake.
yeah.
So I started The Boys the other night, and that happened to me. I was like, because I'd watched the first episode only. I was like, oh, I'll watch the second episode, and then 4 episodes later, it was 4 a.m., and I was like,
Oops.
And season 2
Oh
looks
my.
great.
all right.
But no, Battlestar Galactica. I mean, it's permeated through a lot of media. You know, you don't get Bear Beats Battlestar Galactica without how
Battlestar
popular.
Galactica.
Without the show, how popular the show became.
And that's it. I mean, it had a lot to it too. I mean, it's something to be said that it covered a lot of ground in terms of like race and sexuality and religion and government. To have the United Nations have a
Space.
symposium devoted about it to talk about the themes and how it's related to modern day. I mean,
also how it ends.
Yeah,
is very like wow.
And the other thing too, I mean, spoiler alert, I apologize, but it takes place in the past, not the future. And I just think that is so cool. Like it's like
we're all Cylons.
This has happened before. It will happen again. But the other big part about this show is that it was such a community thing for me because it was like, okay, so I watched it with my roommate. We watched the whole thing.
Shout out.
And then when Bonnie and I started dating, we watched it together again.
Shout out.
Then my buddy Dusty, we'd have a weekly thing where we'd get together, we'd grill, and we'd watch a few episodes of Battlestar Galactica. And it's just, I just loved the show. And I mean, you have like Bear McCreary who does the soundtrack, and now he's doing everything.
He did Godzilla.
Yeah. He did Walking Dead. He's if you look at his credits, he's just doing everything now. He's the composer for everything. So yeah,
there might be more Battlestar Galactica podcasts than there are nerd podcasts.
Whoa.
Probably.
It's possible.
But it's it's just a show that anytime I see the actors on something else, I'm like, yeah, Katie Sackhoff, she's doing things.
I got Corey to fall in love with that girl.
Very specifically on the Kevin Smith podcast episode, though.
But it was the Mark Bernardin.
Oh, that's true.
Episode. Yeah,
it was Black Man on or Black Man Beyond.
Because Mark Bernardin is one of the people that has a Battlestar Galactica podcast.
Mark Bernardin is so smart.
He is, and he has it with Trisha Helfer.
And he wrote a Nightcrawler. I mean, like, come on. What more do you want about this guy? What more do you want?
A lot of what I kind of take, I think, from what I think the community in the world, because Battlestar Galactica was a little bit before my time, before I got into real serial shows, especially live action, because, as a kid, you grow into cartoons and then the live action stuff happens. So, like, the impact that I recognize have been a lot from the internet. And a lot of people who, are like you, Josh, 50 or older, really talk about Battlestar Galactica. So, like,
I look good for 50, I'm just going to say.
I mean, you look good for 80. I'm just, but no, so like it's not lost upon someone that has never watched Battlestar Galactica, and especially I never watched the super original. So I'm like, the fact that the version you're talking about still is referenced today, and a lot of people are talking about, and even with the reboot on Rumor, like all the cast is just like, don't do what we did. Yeah, do something different. Because
I mean, even the creator of the person that's behind the new reboot is saying, I don't want to touch what Ron Moore did. That was perfect, and so yeah, I'm excited.
Sounds like
about
they should have
that
talked to Disney.
It's the same way. I mean, they did Watchmen, where it's like, I don't want to touch anything. I'm not going to do anything that's going to change the original, or you know what I mean. I'm going to build off of it.
And even though shows like Watchmen, Battlestar Galactica, like they live in time and in great company, and it's not without the showrunners, like who had to muscle and fight their way tooth and nail through the studio executives to be like, we're going to talk about these things, and we're going to take these risks, and the audience is going to thank us for it later. And so
I've got to watch it.
Battlestar Galactica.
I know about it. But
I've seen Starship Troopers.
It's on Netflix.
Does that count?
I would like to formally request that we do a Battlestar Galactica episode.
Oh shit!
Someday.
Here's my terms. Here's my terms. We have to do a Starship episode then.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. Yeah.
My
I'm
request.
so down.
I've never seen either of these.
I'm doing my part.
Is Hot Rod then?
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. No, that's not even.
I have a feeling that
Caitlin's
Caitlin's gonna have a migraine that day.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out. I'll have
she's gonna do the Josh thing.
I'll
Deal
have
with family
stomach issues, family issues.
We need you to come balance the episode.
There was a sewage spill in my neighborhood.
There's a sewage spill out of my laptop. I gotta deal with
guacamoles everywhere.
We'll have Mikey on for that one.
Caitlin, tell us about your show.
So since we're kind of going with I feel like the nostalgia show first, Jackie Chan Adventures.
The remake? I'm kidding.
All right. Just poke at the
But
woo.
by the time of this recording, everyone, we did a update episode, and Caitlin's like, "Oh my god, there's a new show," and it was like 3 years old, and the show like flopped.
It was news to me. Anyway, so I grew up watching a lot of. It was really hard for me to choose between Jackie Chan Adventures and Sailor Moon because they both had kind of a similar impact on me. But Jackie Chan Adventures is the one that I cried when I missed an episode. Like I remember having full like tantrum meltdown that I was gonna miss. It was like a pivotal episode. It was gonna like ruin.
And back
all the
then,
stuff.
if you missed an
like,
episode,
end of season,
you missed. Back then, if you missed an episode, you missed an episode.
That was it.
Caitlin and I were closer in age. I mean, it's Corey, Caitlin, and I. Josh is like 20 years old. Anyways, but when Jackie Chan Adventures was first coming out, it was like every Saturday. And so like you had to wait a whole like block in order for it to show reruns again. And you're like, I just missed the episode. They got the talisman. I don't know what talisman they got.
Yep.
I don't even know what the good guys got at this time.
It just had like, okay, so I come from white bread Southern Indiana. There was not like the only other like kind of cultural things that were around was like there was a Mexican restaurant and there was a Chinese restaurant.
Nice.
And like we knew
Panda
about like the Zodiacs and what?
Panda and Taco Bell. Nice.
Yeah. No, we didn't even have a Panda. We had McDonald's. So when we got Starbucks, it was like a huge deal. But so like I knew about the Zodiacs because of this Chinese restaurant. And that was the only reason I knew about it because they had these little placemats. So then when there was a show about something that I had like just kind of sort of recently learned about, I was like, I know what those are.
I'm the smart one.
I'm a genius. And then like I was also like watching Sailor Moon at the same time, and you had like this little powerful, you know, your
Polly
little
Pocket
thing, or your like Polly Pocket thing that gives you special superpowers. And then in like Jackie Chan, they had all the 12 talismans, and then there was like a dragon sorcerer Shendu, and then there was like the evil businessman Valmont. And then and then there was Jade, who is like the self-insert for me because she's like, I could be an adult, I could fight all the monsters and the Shadow Con ninjas, I could do whatever I want. And then she gets checked at like every turn. But also becomes like, the Shadow Con queen for like a hot minute, and that was the coolest thing ever to see as a kid. And they just had so many amazing things in this show. There was like Viper, who's like Selena Kyle insert.
You're not going to sleep on an uncle.
Oh, an uncle and Toru and Haku. Oh my God.
And then just getting to see Jackie at the end of every episode.
Yeah, and he'd come in with like the little, it was like almost like a little bit of
Jerry's
PBS where you get a little like, throw your trash away, drink your milk, make sure that you exercise and have some spinach sometimes. Like it was really encouraging at the end too.
What's your favorite color? How'd you learn how to speak English? Why do you think martial arts is really important?
Yeah, so it was kind of like, it was all of the fun of Dragon Ball Z. It was all the magic of like Sailor Moon.
And the wholesomeness of PBS.
And the wholesomeness of PBS all wrapped into one. And there was fighting, like martial arts galore. It was like, I feel like if I watched it now, it may not hold up as well. But the nostalgia glasses might be
Jackie Chan's got staying power. Jackie Chan
always okay.
Jackie Chan's like a genre in himself.
He really is.
You hear him say, "Oh," or and you see him go, "I want no trouble," and then "Uncle," and then you're like, "That's it. That's Jackie Chan movie. I'm
really
out."
Like that was pretty much like Jackie Chan in the show. That was him all the time. He's like, I really don't want to fight anybody ever. Please just let me work at this antique shop and let me live my life.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
There was a movie. Maybe I'm getting this fun fact wrong. Where I think Jackie Chan was supposed to be cast as the villain. The studio wanted him as a villain, and he said he didn't want to do it
because he had the show going on.
He didn't want to be a bad guy.
Good.
He's been bad guys before, I think, in older Chinese films.
Yeah, but this is American. This is an American film. Oh. I want to say it was like, I don't know. I'll remember it eventually.
Oh, in his older age, I'd want him as Shang Tsung for Mortal Kombat. That'd be dope.
That wouldn't be bad.
I wouldn't be mad with that.
Everyone stopped and made a face.
Oh shit!
And it's like, oh,
man, I would 100% watch that. But yeah, like, I don't know, everything about that show was, it had magic, it had like moral lessons, it had the normal, like, this show has this episode teaches you a lesson about ABC. And then at the end, Jackie Chan comes in and is like, it's good to be a good person. Like his little Mr. Rogers exit as well. So it's just like,
they also
so
had
perfect.
the
Demolition Man.
Oh, the original
He's supposed to
Demolition
be
Man?
the villain in
Wow.
Demolition Man.
Wesley
Turned it
Snipes, though.
Yeah.
And they also in Jackie Chan Adventures, they had their, Agents of Shield kind of thing with the Nick Fury wannabe. The white dude who's bald and he's got his like long trench coat.
The underground thing.
Because also Jackie Chan was like associated with them in his past life.
And then there was like El Toro and
Fuerte.
Paco.
And then
so you had like wrestlers.
You got a
in
heat
it
beam
as well.
eye blast guy who always like used his moves and oh god, who always used like his attacks and stuff like that. I'm sorry. But then also you had like, okay, I'll also say this. I was been recently talking to my friends like what's the next tattoo I want to get? It's probably gonna be a ShadowCon. And I was like, oh, those are pretty fucking gangster.
Yeah,
and
they are.
I don't want that, but I'm afraid like I might get possessed. But it's all fine. I don't care about that stuff.
You should get that like the tattoo that Jade like water brushes onto her ankle and becomes the ShadowCon
the main
queen.
ShadowCon guy. So there were other
That'd be
cool.
cool.
ShadowCon dudes. And I was like, I'd probably go with that one because I'm like, that's like the main one. I want to be a little off-brand. But no, I remember going to a Chinese restaurant and then seeing like a giant gold statue thing. I was like, is that like a Shendu?
Is that Shendu?
And it's like,
is he here?
but like the cool thing was that like in each episode too, like it was part of the WB Kids morning lineup for me. And then I'd watch like Pokemon and I'd watch like Yu-Gi-Oh. And the thing is like at the end of the episode, the heroes always won. And then in Jackie Chan Adventures, they were the way the show was the getcha. It was I'm gonna go get this thing. So they were trying to get all the talismans, get all the demon boxes, get all of the ShadowCon sealed away. And sometimes they'd lose. And it wouldn't get resolved until the end of the season. And you're like, are they gonna win? Because they only have like 4 out of all the talismans. And it's like, oh, now they have 8. They lost all of the talismans. And it's like,
and the bad guys weren't necessarily like. I remember very vividly there was a scene with Valmont, like when things weren't going well with Shendu, and there was actually a time where he was like kind of rooting for Jackie because it like benefits the whole of humanity for Jackie to win. But he's like got that old like we're supposed to be still fighting, and Jade's like gives them the look, and he's like, "Go Jackie!" Like so where it was like even the bad guys end up not being wholly bad or wholly good. Like they're out for their own interest and everything, but then like when the tides turn, they turn with them. They're not just like one static thing all the time forever.
oh,
Like
the guy the agent guy from Jackie Chan Adventures is Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
And Hawk Fu is John DiMaggio. Oh my God, there's so many amazing people. And then
there's a lot of awesome
For
people
those who don't know,
in the
Clancy
show.
is a lot of things, but he's Mr. Krabs.
He's
Probably
also
his
Lex
biggest
Luthor.
claim to fame. Yes.
One villain I really liked was Dao Lan Wang, who is like the evil wizard opposite of Uncle, voiced by James Hong. And so like it's pretty great to have him, and then just have him go "Gan run chui," and then like all these like the guys come in. It's like they did really well for like antagonists. Anyways,
I also want to say that James C.
Yeah,
who
for Chow.
was the voice of what? Sorry.
Chow.
Oh, is that how you say that?
I don't know. No,
The one
not
who was,
C, but
voicing Jackie. He was also he voiced many characters in the show, but he's also Cabbage Man in Avatar: The Last Airbender. My cabbages.
Any other parts you want to mention before we switch? We go to the next round?
I feel like I could goosh about that show forever. So we'll leave it there because I'm gonna go real hard on my second pick.
I didn't know Jackie actually did the
voice.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was James.
James C.
Because he was
This website's
himself.
wrong then.
Like at the end, Jackie would come in to like give the moral lesson.
Got it.
But James, I know I'm saying it wrong, but C
It's
he
spelled
was the voice
S-I-E.
for Jackie. Yeah.
Got it.
So then
He's not
I'll
on Wikipedia. That's sad.
Oh.
He's on. If you look up Google Jackie Chan Adventure
Yeah.
Cast, he's up there. If so, I'll go
IMDb's.
next. I'll restart the round. So round 2, second show, and so and when Kaylin's like, "Oh, we're not doing the nostalgia stuff," like this is huge nostalgia for me. This show, the generation before me had Saved by the Bell, and I think the generation.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, the generation after me, I think would have had. Ooh, Drake and Josh, maybe? I don't know. But Boy Meets World is my second pick of TV shows because watched it part of normal Buena Vista ABC programming.
I was wrong, by the way.
You were wrong what?
I thought you were gonna say Degrassi.
Oh no. No. I love Degrassi.
I know you do. That's what I was gonna say.
love
You're like the
Degrassi.
soaps, these daytime soaps, and I was like,
And
Degrassi.
I fell in love with every single female actress on the show. Not their characters, because some of the characters are pieces of shit. Anyways, Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets
though,
World.
That was like the first time I felt like there was a show kind of for me as a kid. Not like, here's a show about you growing up, but just like a show of what it's like to be a kid growing up. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense because
It does.
that's what the showrunner Michael Jacobs set out to do, was to make that show. And he seriously got Ben Savage in mind to make it. And literally when they sent out the scripts to audition everybody, it was the Untitled Ben Savage project.
Oh wow.
So like, and only Ben Savage became really popular because his brother Fred Savage. And
he was in Little Monsters.
exactly, he was in that, and Fred Savage brought
Played
him
his
on
own brother.
Yeah. So yeah, the show. I'm just gonna do a little. This sounds weird. I'll do a little production-y of it, but it's like April Kelly was also the second creator of it. Ben Savage, William Daniels, Betsy Randall, Will Friedle, Ryder Strong, Lily Nixay, William Russ, Danielle Fishel. All these people like Danielle Fishel. She was
the queen.
Topanga. She was the
yeah.
first.
I don't know how many times I was asked growing up, how's Topanga?
I mean,
It was funny at first, and then 10 years later, it wasn't as funny anymore. Or how's your cousin Austin was the other one I got.
I feel like if someone were to think that I was dating Topanga, I'd be happy with it. Secondly,
You would think, but it gets old.
secondly, I was always asked like, "Oh, where's your power morpher?" And I was like, "That's pretty cool too." So, but
Left it at your mom's house.
It had 7 seasons, 158 episodes, and it grew up with me. Like that's what it felt like. It grew up with me. I got to see how kids went from middle school to high school to college to getting married and having a kid. And that had been so impactful on my life for probably bad reasons, because it made me think that this was what like ideal relationships are supposed to be like. And I remember I've rewatched it so many times, and I always get surprised. I'm like,
Disney
damn.
Plus Life.
What?
So that Disney Plus Life.
Oh, yeah.
We've been rewatching it too.
I own it. I own the physical copy.
Wow.
So that's why I was
You
like,
nerd.
well, I mean, and that's the thing where like I dated a girl and we rewatched the whole series, and then it made me be like, wow, they broke up so many times, Corey and Topanga. And like I really liked that because it was that whole like, yeah, we've known each other for all our lives. We were always meant to be, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come without its struggles. It doesn't come without its like prices and development that they have to do away from each other. Preparing for this episode, I watched a bunch of interviews and behind the scenes stuff, and it's crazy to think like how Ryder Strong, who plays Sean, and Will Friedle, who plays Eric, were actually not the people that shot the pilot. They were like, Will Friedle was like not the brother that they picked. And the only reason why that he was the brother is because he was taller than Ben Savage. The brother they had picked was the same height. And they're like, we can't have you be the older brother if you're the same height. And so Eric or Will Friedle got the part. And then Ryder Strong, he was a part of a rotating circle of kids who would always be Corey's best friend. And there is a plot hole where Corey does something to his hair, and then Sean calls his sister Stacy, who in canon doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because what they would do, they would have the cafeteria, and then they would have this chair, and whoever sat in that chair would get fired the next week. And so one kid got fired halfway through the week, and then they just gave all the lines to Sean, and then Sean became Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he became like the series regular. So it was really crazy. And so Ben Savage and Michael Jacobs really kind of came up with the story together. And that was the kind of like crazy thing about Hollywood at the time. Like child actors were like fucking golden hens. Like you just made franchises for these kids. And it's why Macaulay Culkin looks the way he is, and Haley Joel Osment looks the way he is.
Sounds like Ben Savage turned out all right.
Yeah. Those two kind of really came up with the show of like, I want to do a show where it's the kids' perspective, not the family perspective.
And it doesn't talk down to the audience at all, which is really refreshing.
And they definitely had a lot of, okay, we have to pull back a little bit, because by the time they got to high school, they introduced Mr. Turner and other teachers, and they're like, this is not becoming about the kids anymore. This is becoming about the school. And so they, wrote characters out. But Michael Jacobs literally had to take a lot of risks. And it was only due in part because when the show first came out, it wasn't popular. Family Matters and Sabrina the Teenage Witch killed it. They were killing Boy Meets World. No one was watching Boy Meets World. And so they were kind of allowed to do episodes where Sean was a girl for a day, or Sean went to a cult. And so like Sean, Ryder Strong says like, I think all the bad stuff happened to me. He's like, I just became the character that like all the bad stuff can happen to. Like I'm the teen at risk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they dealt with a lot of cool stuff, adult themed stuff in a way that kids could digest. So like, there's an episode where Corey's dad, he gets upset about Corey's dad because he has to work and he can't go on this vacation. Or is it a ball game that they all promised to go on? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so he like almost loses his job. And then Corey feels the guilt about asking his dad to go ask his boss for this thing. And it's a really smart show on teaching kids lessons about adulthood in a way that isn't talking down to them, but also is talking to them in a way that they'll understand.
Yeah, and
which I think is a wonderful balance. That's why we got Feeney, baby.
Yeah, it had the parental units be like, are we doing good by our kids too? And so like it showed that two kids that parents do worry, not for like, are they doing something stupid, but like, are they going to be an okay person when they grow up? So yeah, I mean, there's so many chock full of things like Will Friedle, plays with squirrels, lose your friends, lose yourself, lose everything. And there's a part where he does a reference to Trading Places, where he licks the lollipop to Dan Aykroyd. And then they do the meta episode where like they're on set for Guy Meets the Universe.
Yep.
And it's the exact same cast, and they all act like terrible to each other. And then there's the Scream episode with Jennifer Love Hewitt. And
the Halloween one. That's
the Halloween one.
Good.
Yeah.
At the school.
That is apparently the fan favorite. Like everyone's like, that's.
Well,
the
they also
one
referenced South Park in it. Oh my God, they killed Kenny.
Yeah. It's like they did kill Kenny, and then like Jennifer Love Hewitt comes in there, and also like introduction of like the extra cast of Angela, Rachel, and Jack. I thought was great.
Is that the episode where Eric makes his turn essentially?
What do you mean?
To becoming
from
being
guy?
the like confident.
The goof.
No, it happened way before this.
Women dating kind of like brother.
Once
and then he just becomes an idiot.
Once he got once.
In
so
the best way.
The way that the show phased out was like they were in junior high, and then they went to high school, and there was a set. But once they got to the senior side of the high school, then the set changed, and they only had this one hallway, not the hallway that led to the bathroom, but the hallway that led to the classroom. And that's when Eric just became like the goof. And apparently, like, one of their favorite moments on the show is that, like, apparently they were just kids. They're just kids. And Michael Jacobs, the showrunner, was like, either you guys have to stop laughing or we can't shoot this thing.
Because they would just laugh.
They would just giggle. They would just giggle all the time. And there was apparently a bit where Eric couldn't get out of the couch because, like, they dealt with, getting older and then holding on more weight. And he couldn't get out of the couch. And so him and Danielle Fishel were just like laughing, and they just cut it. They couldn't even shoot the thing because they're.
Whoa.
And that was one of my favorite episodes too. Was that Topanga was starting to gain weight, and she hated it. And then like she was trying to put on pants. She's like, I can't fit in my pants. And then Corey's like, those are my pants. And then she got even more fed up. Like it's those things which I was like, man, like the things that I will never get away. Like Corey running out after Topanga to Disney World to like try to tell her like like he's sorry, he wants her back and stuff like that. Like those grand gestures of things, like Jack and Sean having to deal with the fact that like their father died, and then Sean leaving and then coming back, and then he's all like scruffed up, but everyone still fucking loved him. Like I there's so much, and Feeney, William Daniels, like he was great. I mean, you can't say anything wrong with him, and I think
great.
There is something to say that him and then the woman that he falls in love with in the show they're actually married in real life, and they've been married since like 1950.
No.
One word.
They've been
plastics.
Yeah, they've been married for such a long time, and then it's like every time they go to press junkets and Comic Cons and stuff like that, they're always together.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So Boy Meets World, like, yeah, it taught it for me. It was like the rubric to growing up for me, and so I put it in that place. So that's my number 2. And the
It's a good one. I will say one of my favorite lines in the show is, I mean, any of the speeches Feeney gives is my true favorite. But the one that stuck with me for so long is what are you gonna do? I'm gonna take the money to the bank, deposit it, come right back. And then he says that Eric says this over and over again on his walk, and it cuts to him walking in the bank, and he goes, take my mommy to see Frank, clean my closet, take a nap. Where am I? It's wonderful. It is a great episode. That's when he meets Eric the monkey. And he gives the money to Eric the monkey to bring his girlfriend over.
I was like really prepared to hear some really heartfelt life lesson.
Oh,
take the money to the bank, deposit it.
You want to hear
take
one
my
part?
mommy to see Frank, clean my closet, take a nap.
Here's a sad fact that Ben Savage had said. One of his favorite lasting memories is the last episode and the last scene. So all the students come back to the high school classroom, and then they all say, because they're all going away to different places. So Corey and Topanga are moving to New York, and someone's joined the Peace Corps and all this other stuff. And the original cast go back to the classroom, and then Mr. Feeney's there, and they're this is the last goodbye. And Ben Savage, the actor, said like, okay, cool, we're gonna do this scene at least 1 or 2 times, so at least I won't be able to say goodbye immediately. And they did one take, and it was really emotional. And then he was like, cool, we're going to reset soon. And then Michael Jacobs said, okay, cool, we got it, we're done. And he said, no, I just need one more take. I need one more take. He's like, no, we got it. And he said that. And then Ben Savage said, like, that felt like this was the end of my childhood. That moment was the end.
No more takes.
The coming seasons, Michael Jacobs always said, like, this is a great show. This is something special, but this will end. And he had always constantly reminded them as they shot, like, this is going to end. This is going to end. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
your heart.
It's such a good show.
Yeah.
So, next.
For me, my second is another one of my favorite shows. Can Tom guess it again? Yes, you can. It's very easy, actually.
Oh, I know.
The Last Dance.
Oh, Always Sunny.
Always Sunny. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Shout out real quick, longest running live action comedy in TV history as of this year, going on to its 15th season.
Wow.
Which is really inspiring to me because not only have the seasons gotten better as they've gone on, which is not usually what happens, but they started as, if you ever watch the pilot, there's a documentary called The $200 Pirate.
Pirate?
$200 pirate.
That's how much it cost me to pirate that.
We are on to something.
$200 pilot, because that's what they made their pilot for. They used a camera that Rob McElhenney had, and they decided to make this show because he and Glenn Howerton weren't getting acting jobs. They were auditioning, but they weren't. They were coming close, but weren't getting it. So they wrote this show. It was originally called It's Always Sunny in Los Angeles, and it was going to be about actors because they wanted a job that gave them the freedom to kind of go on any adventures they wanted, and they would just be like out of work actors. And he's like, I wanted to write a show about originally 4 of the worst people you've ever met, most self-centered, kind of like, how are they still friends, but somehow they always are there for each other at the very end or something. And he's like, and it was just, if you can watch it's one of the first episodes in their real season, but the pilot is just what they did at the time and how they were able to sell it. Like, Rob went on to pitch it himself without any experience.
Yeah.
And went from network to network and network, and everyone wanted to change something. And he kept saying like, no, I don't want to change that. And then he finally brought it to FX, and they were like, yeah, let's make that. The only thing we want you to change is, you know, put it in Philadelphia. There's too many Los Angeles shows. Put it somewhere else. They decided Philadelphia. And instead of being actors, they would run a bar. They would own a bar, which gives them more freedom to do whatever.
Dumb shit.
Because all the other studios basically were like, no, I'm not doing this. Like crazy, unless you change all these things. And so FX, they have this beautiful, I mean, that's where they are now. 15 years later, they're still on FX because they kind of just gave them the freedom to do whatever.
FX gets slept on, but like they are a really wonderful
have Always Sunny.
channel.
They have Atlanta.
They had Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy.
Like, great network. And so it's kind of like this rags to riches story in a sense of these like totally broke, out of work actors throwing together a pilot, pitching it themselves, going on to become the longest running live action comedy of all time. Is pretty fucking cool.
No, and like Rob McElhenney, like he gets invited to all of these like writer showrunner summits because of they like to your point, rags to riches, like they learn from the ground up like what it was to be munched on through the system and through the industry and then spit back out and churn out quality content that gets renewed.
Yeah. And I'll say this because they write a lot of their own episodes. They have other writers, but they write themselves. Like Rob writes most of the show himself. And I have such a respect for Rob, who plays Mac on the show, because not only is he writing it and starring in it, he's also the showrunner. And he sits in on the editing of every episode. And I am so blown away with the amount of work he puts into that show. But enough of the behind the scenes stuff. I also think like in front of the camera as a show, the boundaries they push and how they get away with it is kind of brilliant because it's making commentary on the type of people who would do these terrible things in a satirical kind of way. But because the characters are who they are and they're piece of shit characters and they never win. Like that's the thing. They never win. And that's how they can get away with all these like terrible schemes and plots, like the, you know, taking the gasoline and reselling it for like 10 times the price and just all this terrible shit. And the addition of in the second season of Danny DeVito is kind of a game changer as well.
I was gonna say
beautiful.
It's why everyone wants him to be Wolverine for the MCU.
All those gurgles and growls and stuff.
I'd love
it's kind of it's amazing that if you watch any interviews, he was a fan of the first season, and kind of in a sense, you know, Mac had to go. Rob McElhenney had to go to meet him and convince him to do the show, and he was like, "There's basically not really much convincing." He kind of just wanted to be a part of it. He was like, "It's cool. It's like an underdog, kind of like, you know." Kind of punk rebel show in a sense, and Danny was like, I just want to be on the ground floor of that. It seems like so much fun. And I did get to take a tour of the set, which was really, really cool.
you had to clean his pants.
I'm a huge Charlie fan. I think Charlie is one of the greatest characters on TV to this day because he can do anything. He's illiterate. He loves bashing rats. He makes a grilled Charlie. One of my favorite episodes is the episode where Charlie believes he is getting smarter and through an experiment, but it actually turns out to be this placebo effect. But he starts like he starts getting these wild ideas and starts like walking with a cane and starts speaking with an English accent to prove that he's getting smarter. And and you find out that the experiment was actually on him the whole time, and he was getting a placebo effect. And he was like, "Oh, okay, well." Fuck nerds, and then they leave this classroom, and it's brilliant. I don't know if any of you guys have spent the time to watch a majority of it, but
I've seen some, and I have a sense of like, yes, these are like just awful people that are just
I've seen a few
full of
episodes.
themselves, and nothing goes well. Even when they think that their grand schemes are totally working, the bottom always falls out.
To me, it sounds like, I don't know why I haven't watched it. I feel like it's a little bit going back to Peaky Blinders. Like, you know, I'll have to like try to really watch it. But to me, it's like, it seems almost like the perfect escalation, especially for someone like me who loved Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Yeah.
And it's literally about three dummies.
And if you like dark comedies, I mean, it's a dark comedy for sure. I mean,
making fun of people
they
that
get
do
into
expenses.
stuff like, they get into stuff where they like huff gasoline and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
it
they're
gets
just terrible
pretty-
to each other.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things through lines to the show is if you watch it in order, there is a very slow progression of Dennis being the handsome, vain one to complete sociopath, just disconnected from society and manipulating people to the nth degree. And it's this wonderful, like I've talked to Tom about this before. Like there is a study I want to do there, a video essay of some sort where you just follow his progression in the background from vain to complete fucking psycho.
Sociopath.
Yeah.
It's
Like he
better
starts
than-
referring
it's better than
himself as the golden god and like
Oh, yeah.
it's
I've
better
gotten
than the-
snippets of that.
the snail in Adventure Time.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that show is just absolutely brilliant, and it's a big inspiration for me and PAs as a whole to just kind of come from
Makes a lot of
nothing
sense.
and have this achievement of like, not only did they come from nothing and become the longest running TV show, but they've had Danny DeVito as a cast regular, and
Well, it's a household name now.
yeah. Fun fact is that Rob met his wife on that show, who is Dee Reynolds is his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And you can watch her audition tape, and it's pretty brilliant because she comes in and reads, and you can just hear them busting a gut in the background because he reads with her, and they just fell in love, and now they're married, and it's wonderful. Their Instagram is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Must be nice.
Anyway,
probably
that's
so.
Always Sunny. I encourage everyone to watch it.
Wow.
It's so good.
Josh, Caitlin.
Josh.
Fine.
Deja vu.
this
one
Are you
was
getting it
a-
right now?
We want to
This
see
was
that
an
food
easy one.
porn opening.
Yeah. This one was an easy one. Dexter.
Oh,
Dexter
so good.
is a show that I have watched 3
Dexter's
or 4 times.
Laboratory?
No.
Yes.
Dexter's Laboratory. I'm sorry, I didn't finish that time.
Shout out to John Lithgow.
Yes.
Shut up. Oh God.
Wow.
Oh,
It-
That's exactly how he says it, and
Yeah.
that's exactly the reaction you should have. Oh God.
The way he
Um,
says it is a thing like you want to never hear again, but also you're like, maybe just one more time. Maybe
It's-
just say it one more time.
It's kind of like it's like if someone was choking you and slapping you and spitting in your face at the same time. You're like, but you liked it.
Yeah.
You're like, but why do I
There's
like
a-
this?
Yeah.
But why?
It is very much like why do I
Anyway.
like it?
As the dean on
Josh,
Community says,
do you like
this better
it?
not awaken anything in me.
No, it's a riveting show from beginning to end. I might have a little bit of criticism for the finale, but for the show,
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I'm in that same boat. There's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, Dexter, but the last seasons are garbage." I'm like, but if you watch the show, it makes sense. Like from the very beginning, they set up this whole idea of like Dexter could never get away from his dark passenger, and that it's a curse in his life. And so, how do you do that? You fulfill the prophecy, or I mean, you could have it where it has the happy ending. But again, my favorite line to say, Caitlin, it's not what you want, it's what you need. And it's that thing where it's like, I get it. I get it for the character, but I didn't want it for the character.
Yeah. So it's for me,
It's hard
I was
to watch
okay
sometimes.
with
what?
the finale.
No.
What, Corey?
No, I just said it's one of those shows that's hard to watch sometimes. You're like, this hurts me to see happen to people, but I know it has to happen. And
Yeah.
It's poetic.
I know it's the right character arc, but why am I rooting for this person? I shouldn't be, but I totally am.
Yeah. And I just love the journey of Dexter, watching him. Like he has no idea about people. Like really like how to read people in a sense of like what emotion is. And it's just something that I really enjoyed. And every character I loved. The finale, like you said, Tom, it is something that's like, oh, I don't want it like that, but it makes complete sense when it was done and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's
I wish
just a
Michael
show
C.
that
Hall
I've
got
watched.
more work. I wish Michael C. Hall got more work.
Yeah, he's the other show, and I'll save this for TV shows. RS Part 2.
Here it comes. Here it comes. We said
This is a
2.
little
Here comes.
preview
Here
for
comes.
you.
a
No,
little
it's
break.
fucking related. Michael C. Hall and 6 Feet Under. Like, it's like Michael C. Hall is amazing, and he took this like he didn't want to do another TV show, but he read the script and he was like, "Okay, I've got to do this."
So he's in Game Night as a cameo, and he's brilliant.
he's in Gamer, and that movie is garbage. But
is that the one where the shot turns around and he like has his like dance
hands
thing?
Yes, exactly.
That shot is dope, though.
I mean, the thing is, like, again, he's wonderful, but the movie's trash. Like, he could have been the Nolan Riddler. Like, it would have been fucking phenomenal.
Whoa.
Josh's face just lit up a lot.
I just love Michael C. Hall. Anytime I see him in anything, he's
every time you see Hall?
Every time I see Hall. Yeah.
But to that point, I will say I'm a little bit of like half and half, because the first 3 episodes, it's very like he's sociopathic. He does not understand people. And then after that, it's like, he gets people. Like he's able to feign humanity, which is the sociopathic part of him, very, very well, which I'm like, okay, well, he does understand people. Because that was my big allure when I first watched the show. I watched it, binged it on Netflix, and I immediately fell in love with it because it's like, he's a good guy. He just is literally probably meant to be a terrible person. But everything he does is a redemptive arc to try to cope with the fact that he has these urges, and this idea that he can't relate to people because he's just logic embodiment.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not that he doesn't understand the emotions. He doesn't understand the point of them, so to speak. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's almost like, why are you getting emotional about this? There's not like,
it's a waste of energy.
It's a waste of energy.
Way.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the thing where it's like the show is kind of just like more of this implementation of learning how to be human. And, he gets these things that he like attached to, like Batista and like Rita and all that stuff. And what happened to Rita?
I haven't seen it.
Motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker.
That's where it's from, man.
Yes, I love it.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Supplies, motherfucker. Anyways.
But yeah, just beginning to end, I love the show. I love all the arcs of the characters. Anything that happens, you're just kind of like, no, but it has to happen.
Man, I won't spoil anything, but the season 4 finale is one of my favorite finales I've seen on TV in a while.
Season 4, period. Like, John,
is that Lithgow?
I'll just say John Lithgow.
Yeah, that's the Lithgow season.
There's a reason why he won awards for that. He is just so good. He's so good in that, and
it's a really good show. And Caitlin, if you haven't watched it yet, like if we mention spoilers, it will possibly ruin the show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it does lead you to because the entire show, and this is what I always like. And to me, what's indicative of a good show is like, okay, but how are you gonna? What's next? How are you gonna? Who's better than that person? Who is he gonna fight against this? Because the premise is Dexter is a sociopathic murderer who works for the police department, and he works in forensics, so like he can clean up
He's a serial killer.
Yeah, and so he kills people that he vets through, like, this person would never get reformed through
normal means.
the criminal
so I'm gonna
system.
kill them to get them out of the world.
And then typically each season follows of someone who's a more diabolical, like, because he plots, he vets them, he sees them, and he finds a way to kill them. While this other person just kills, non-discriminatory. And so he has to then try to find this big catch, this big kill. And when he does,
and he's methodical as fuck.
You get the same kind of cathartic release that he does of like, yes, fucking kill.
The beautiful
this
thing is he
motherfucker.
works in the crime division, so he knows all the things they use to find people who kill people, and so he goes around
he can
all of that.
circumvent them.
Yeah. It's a great concept.
It plays good cat and mouse too. It's based off a book.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's one of the most interestingly and symbolically edited openings of any TV show.
Oh my god, yes. That was going to be my next thing. Like the opening. Like, just
I watched it every time. I never skipped.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just you want to see and just
Kalen, to give you an idea, it's him waking up. It's his morning ritual, and it's him making breakfast, but it's done like as if it was a murder.
Yeah.
And so it's
I think
really
I remember that. I've
you
seen
see the red
couple of
splash and you think it's
episodes.
blood, and then you realize it's hot sauce on an egg, and like
and then you see him like tighten his boots up. It looks like it's strangling somebody.
it's so well done.
You see him like shave, and it looks like he's about to slice a throat. And it's like, and they throw in, Josh probably gets his little sound engineer boner off where like they have like the cuts and it's like, so.
And shout out to Colin Hanks and season 6 and 7. I loved that story arc. Again, not going to give anything away for Caitlin.
I have to watch those. I'll be honest, I stopped after 5 or during 5.
Oh my god! I'm gonna say like this: there is a Selena Kyle-like character who's phenomenal, and I fell in love with that woman.
All right, I'll get to it.
It was great.
But yeah, it's a show that I've probably watched 3 or 4 times all the way through. And
like
it's one of those shows that it's like there have been times where I'm like, I just want to watch an episode. I just love it.
Yeah.
I just enjoy it.
That's me and Always Sunny. It's like, you know what? I'm not doing anything tonight. I'm just gonna put on Always Sunny, and I'll like roulette. Like I'll just scan through the episodes and then click one and be like, there we go. That's what I'm watching tonight.
I mean,
they're all good.
With Dexter too, it came during Showtime, and Showtime hadn't really made a stance of like we're a really big network. There was always HBO. HBO had always been like the cornerstone of like we're that DirecTV special that you didn't think you paid for, but then 12 months later now you pay for it, and then Showtime became that one. And like it was 10 episodes per season, hour long. And to me, it felt so concise and it felt good. Like, fuck, the 8th episode. Oh shit, something bad's really gonna happen.
Something bad gonna happen.
And the 9th episode was like, oh fuck, they're about to get it, but I know some real bad's gonna happen. And then and I think of this all in hindsight of like Always Sunny, Dexter compared to Game of Thrones, where it just like it felt like the most plate stacking to tumbling I've ever seen in my life. Where like other shows have like, how it resolved. I'm like, hey, it ended and it ended in a logical place versus like, but why? That was Game of Thrones.
I love you, Lost, but goddamn, baby.
I blame JJ and not Damon Lindelof because
I don't think there's one person to blame on that. I think it was
if
too many. I think there was too many hands in that pie.
Too many lost
it all
hands.
Around. Yeah, we gotta go back.
Caitlin, round us out.
Right.
I used to do an impression of Michael Fox, and it was just me out of breath. That was it. That was the whole impression. Every line he says in Lost is just, we gotta go back. What's wrong, Kate? That's his MO.
Wow.
Look up any Jack Lost clip, and he'll be out of breath, no matter what they're doing.
That's what I thought for Nina Dobrev in Vampire Diaries. She's like, Jeremy, you just don't understand. It's always the exhaling.
Exhale.
It's always,
and
Damon,
down.
I just want to love you. Stefan, why are you going to be like this? And I'm just like, I love you, girl, and I will still marry you. I don't give a shit. Anyway, so Caitlin, round us out.
All right. So I'm going to talk about
Matthew
my
Fox,
favorite
not
show
Michael Fox.
right now.
All right, I feel complete.
It's been my favorite show for a couple of years now. Midnight Diner.
Pitch us the show. Tell us what you would expect to get into.
There's actually 5 seasons of this show. It started back in 2009.
Okay.
So the premise of this show is it's all happening in this little restaurant that's only open from midnight to 7 in the morning.
Only one restaurant.
One restaurant. Yeah. So everything is happening centered at this restaurant. It's a izakaya, I think. It's like he has like this teeny tiny menu. The guy who runs the place is just called the master. And he has a tiny menu of like beer and like, there's like soup and that's kind of it. And he'll make whatever you want, but you have to bring in your own ingredients. So
cool.
It's like, how many
Hot
people
Cheetos.
do you think would come in between midnight and 7 in the morning? More than you'd think. And then it's kind of like the colorful cast of people that would come in from midnight to 7 in the morning, and like their stories.
They're like regulars and stuff.
Regulars, yeah. So like his store regulars, people that kind of come in and go out. There's kind of like a sort of recurring cast that's usually there. But there are like longer arcs that are happening, people that'll come back every like 6 months, and time passes quickly within one episode. There'll be like
anthology.
3 months passed and they came back.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's amazing. And each episode like centers around a food. So there's like,
I see why you like it.
Oh my God, of course I love it. There's like this Yakuza member and he really likes ordering these little red wiener, like red hot dogs, and he like cuts them up into little octopuses. And like, you know, he's the Yakuza member's got his own story, but there's also like this I can't remember if they're like a drag queen or what, but like they end up becoming friends and like maybe they're in love, but you know, and they like rolled omelets and he likes the red hot dogs and they eat off each other's plates and there's like this whole thing. But that's
I know
like,
you said rolled omelets, but I thought you said rolled almonds. Like
Rolled- rolled
the
omelets?
writer.
Nope.
Rolled almonds.
rolled almonds.
Who
But
hates
no,
kids?
Rolled omelets.
every episode is themed on like a food and how that plays into their
Life.
story. So like it's and keep in mind there are like 50 episodes out at this point, and there's like a different food in every episode.
And each season's like 10 episodes.
Yeah, each season is 10 episodes. So there's 50 episodes and 50 different like featured foods. The only thing I think they fully come back to is the red wieners, because the Yakuza guy like kind of
There's
goes
a
out and comes
reoccurring
back.
character.
Yeah, and soba. At the end of each season, it's like the new year hits, it's time for soba. But there's so much like nostalgia and emotion, and the way that they connect everything to like the emotional buildup to just like eating this food is such a big deal. There was actually what I just watched recently that was like voice actors. They were like, they came in to get this kitsune udon, and they were told that getting it specifically from his shop is really lucky. So they were coming in to eat his udon before they go to their audition the next day. And it's supposed to be extra lucky because he like gives fried tofu. That's part of the udon. Kitsune udon is fried tofu on top of udon. And he offers some of it to his shrine every night. And that's why his kitsune udon is very lucky. So you're like learning a little bit about the master. You're learning a little bit about like his shop and why it might be special. And then you like the most of the story is about the voice actors who have their audition, and like the like they fight because one of them becomes more successful quickly, and then the other one like ends up working an office job that she hates for a long time, but then she comes around and ends up being more successful than the other one. And then at the end, they like meet back up at the restaurant again after like things have been patched, and they have kitsune udon again together. So it's like there's a whole emotional arc that's based on the food. So it's the first time I've seen a show where I was so emotionally invested I couldn't binge it. Like I had to watch one episode and I had to take a break,
Take a moment. Yeah.
and think about it, and then I could come back. Like I had to be in a real particular mood to watch multiple episodes in one day. And the most I could get through was maybe 3 or 4. Couldn't watch any more than that. Because it's just like, they'll fucking stab you right in the heart with all your emotions. And even if it's like a food that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily go out and eat, like sake steamed clams or something.
Oh,
like
that sounds amazing.
That sounds great, but it's not something that like that from my childhood that I would be nostalgic for. But in the same way
wieners
that
would.
like a Ghibli film makes you nostalgic for like
Japan.
an area you've never been to, or a story you've
or
never experienced.
how Adele makes you miss somebody you don't even know.
Exactly. Like
And Gyote,
Midnight Diner is really good about
somebody I used
helping
to
you
know.
understand the nostalgia for the food that's the topic of every episode. And you get to like partake in the nostalgia of the story of the person who's featured in every episode. So it's so beautiful. Like
It sounds like the fulcrum is always going to be the diner, but then you get a
Yes.
chance to see other people's lives, and if they are reoccurring, then you get to kind of grow with them. But also you it has a freedom to just tell these micro stories too.
right. And there's such a cornucopia of characters, and being the Midnight
That's a nice
Diner that's
$2 word.
midnight to 7 a.m., you've got normal office hour people. You've got people who are just starting their day at like 6 in the morning who are like quote unquote normal. You've got Yakuza members. You've got like porn stars.
Hell
You've
yeah.
got voice actors. You've
people
got,
running the midnight whose days are ending at
Right.
4 a.m.
Right. So they have such a
Graveyard shift
wonderful cast of people that like, yeah, sometimes you find yourself at this kind of a restaurant at 2 a.m.
No, yeah.
Sometimes you go there regularly because that's, you're just your normal hours. So they've found such a nice balance of kind of doing whatever they want and it making sense.
I would hate for America to do it, but America is America and Netflix is Netflix. But I've definitely had a lot of those moments where it was the same thing, but it was like an IHOP or a Denny's. Where like you
exactly.
have probably some of the greatest memories and moments and conversations at like super late at night, just done partying, or you're done with your junior prom. And it's like, where do we go? Where do they allow us to go? You go to the IHOP. And so those are the things.
Ours was Denny's.
Or you get
Denny's
done with the convention, and then you go to a fucking IHOP or Denny's and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's
parties.
like a, and I think that's also something that really hits nostalgia for me because I remember being, we traveled a lot to like visit family when I was little, so I remember being in the van a lot with my family, and then we would stop at a restaurant kind of late at night, and I would randomly see like, groups of people from all different walks of life. And I was always like, I wonder what their day-to-day life is like. And then as I grew up, I became that group of people, seeing like a little kid staring at me, being like, what are you? Like, what is happening over there?
I'm a booze
and
McBallroom.
This show is like, yeah. but this show is like the epitome of that, of like, yeah, you do get a look into those people's lives. It is kind of giving you the opportunity to really expand upon not just like 10-minute interaction, but like, several months of their life within the span of a 30-minute episode.
Maybe
it's great.
Maybe the manga writer was a kid just like you in an alternate world.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. All right. Well, I think that finishes up the episode. We did it. We gave you a show where we talked about our favorite shows.
We did it.
We
gave you a show.
We did it.
We
it's
did
a
it.
show about shows.
As always, nerd.
And we tried to encapsulate the shows that were meaningful to us if we hadn't already done an episode about it. Josh, sing us out. You do this part.
You do it. You do you.
Do the thing, Julie.
Everybody at home, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you immensely. Tell us about your shows, your favorite shows. Nostalgia factor or not. What are your favorite shows? Reach out to us in the Discord or on social media. There's even a contact form on our website. Reach out. We love to hear from you all.
Touch me.
Just do it.
Just do it. But yeah, we appreciate you all. Do stop by, rate and review us wherever you listen, whether it's Apple Podcast, iHeart, Spotify,
Pandora,
all that good stuff. Stitcher. We are everywhere. We are
YouTube.
Officially everywhere, which is dope. And
just don't look for us on
YouTube.
SoundCloud.
Not there.
But yeah, share us with your friends, your family. Check out our website, nerdon.tv. Do consider joining that Nerd On Nation. It does help us to grow and to be the best that we can be, and to be better than the best that we can be. Dang, that's a lot.
To be the best ever.
The best ever. But
in the game,
yeah.
be the Michael Jordan of podcasts.
Thank you so much for listening. You know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.